But let's get into the action. And, how can we do anything but jump on down to Gainesville to start the show? Because things are just spiraling quickly here on Dan Mullen. I mean, just think about where this program was 12 months ago, beating Georgia, essentially locking up the East. I can't remember if they locked it up with that win, but they may have last season. But man, ever since that first LSU loss, and now obviously the second LSU loss, man, fans are turning left and right on Dan Mullen. And now, if you missed it, let's throw up some quotes here from Bruce Feldman of The Athletic. Man, he put out a article here on Monday. Before we get to the article, it just seems so convenient, all this timing. It's almost like Dan Mullen's got a lot of enemies that I don't know about, but they're all hitting him right where it hurts, right here. And I'm not calling Bruce Feldman out when I say that, because he's just doing his job, and he may be the best out there, literally. I mean, Bruce Feldman does an outstanding job, but he's got some comments here from some unnamed SEC coaches. Florida, they just don't play hard. Georgia's trying to rip your head off. They might be up 30, and their linebackers are flying up the field to get after your ass. Florida's a finesse team. That's tough. Here's another quote from an SEC offensive line coach. Speaking of Florida, they play with zero discipline. They don't play hard. Here's another one. We were way more physical and much better than them in the box. We were mauling them. That's a SEC unnamed offensive coach. And then how about this one? I just don't get the sense that Mullen is as obsessive about recruiting as Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Ed Orgeron, even Ryan Day, the Ohio State coach. That's how these guys are when it comes to recruiting. That's how Urban Meyer was when he was at Florida. Ultimately, at that stage, your head coach is so critical. Mullen is just not as dialed in, and you can't be that way if you're going to be competing for number one classes, and that comes from an unnamed recruiting coordinator. And now these comments come, obviously, after Kirby Smart's comments here on Saturday, right after the ball game. Let's kick it back to what Kirby had to say real quick just on recruiting. And there's a reason I'll be playing this.
Where does that sort of mindset to always sort of be recruiting come from, and why do you think you have so much success with it?
Well, you have to. I mean, guys, if you don't recruit, there's no coach out there that can out-coach recruiting. Okay, I don't care who you are. The best coach to ever play the game better be a good recruiter, because no coaching is going to out-coach players. I mean, anybody will tell you our defense is good because they got good players. So spending time on the phone, spending time with people at your house, spending time with people when they come to your campus. I'm not with my family when I'm doing that. My family sacrifices so that I can go and spend time with other people's families so that we have good players. So, that's 25% evaluation. That's 50% recruiting, and another 25% is going to be coaching. But if you don't recruit, guys, you got no chance. Just go look. Look at the best teams out there. They got good football players. And that's the reason I believe in recruiting. And I believe you better always be recruiting, because if you're not, somebody else is.
So, hell, I just played those comments on the last episode, but I wanted to repeat that in case you missed it, because Dan Mullen, of course, was asked about recruiting right out the gate. This is the very first question he got on his press conference here on Monday. And I know the comments were taken a little bit out of context, so it's important that you hear the full clip here, and even more important, perhaps, that you watch it on the YouTube. We'll throw the video up here as usual, because, Dan Mullen, I don't think he handled this the right way, but I don't think it was quite as bad as a lot of people made it out to be. So let's kick it over to Dan Mullen again. This is the first question he was asked on Monday after the Georgia loss about recruiting, and he shut it down pretty quick.
Coach, the topic of recruiting has come up a lot the last couple of days from a few angles. Is a different approach needed for the level of consistency?
Well, we're in the season right now. We'll do recruiting after the season, and when it gets this recruiting time, we can talk about recruiting.
Sounds good.
Okay. Next question.
All right, so you could kind of see, it was portrayed on Twitter as if Dan Mullen was saying, we don't recruit during the season. That we recruit after the season. That's not at all what he's saying. He's saying, I'll speak to you about it after the season. And, again, I don't think that's the right approach. I think he should have manned up. I put it out there on Twitter. What he should have said was just look at the games last week. Look at the games this season. We're not getting it done. It starts with me. If we have to make changes, we have to make changes. We've got to attack that a lot tougher. He doesn't have to throw anyone under the bus, but he's got to get out there and say, our recruiting efforts have not been at the level they need to be, and that's squarely on my shoulders, and it's going to get better. That's what he should have come out here and said, not, well, hell, we'll talk about that on down the line when it's a little bit more important, because let me tell you, no one gives a damn if you go out here, and I'm speaking of the Florida fans, you go out there and whack South Carolina and Missouri and who else you got to play? Here's the final 4 games. At South Carolina, Samford, at Missouri, Florida State. I know Florida State's a rival, but hell, they're not going to be patting you on the back. You go out there and beat those 4 teams. That is not going to do anything for a fan base that's expecting championships, that's expecting you to be in the race every season in the SEC East. And hell, after that Kentucky game, you weren't eliminated, but you might as well have been. And that was, 5-6 weeks into the season. That ain't going to cut it, brother. So just not handling things that he should be. And, I mean, at this point, I wonder if we really do have to worry about Dan Mullen being let go. And, again, I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's too good of a coach to let go, but he's losing all his goodwill. I mean, everybody knows the stats, I would think, by now. He's, 2-7 against his last 9 Power 5 competition, with the only wins being against Tennessee and Vanderbilt. So that ain't good. That's not going to cut it. And I think it's not so much about, the last 9 games, whatever. It's about the trajectory of this program. It's trending down at the moment. Does that mean it's going to stay down? No. But it's going to be hard to prove anything other than it's going to be hard to get that thing turned around right away. And winning these last 4 games, winning a potential bowl game, I don't think that's going to do much to ease these fans. So it's almost like I don't want to say dead man walking here, but these lingering concerns are going to be here all off season. And Florida's just in such a tough spot, because even if they do fully intend to bring back Dan Mullen, which at this point I still think they should, remember the Southern Cal job is open, the LSU job is open. I mean, there are some big time jobs that are, who knows, Penn State may be open. Florida, arguably a better job than all those. Remember Shane and I kind of debated LSU, Florida, which job's better and all that. I mean, and we threw Texas A&M in there. Those are all elite jobs, to make no mistake. But my point being was, as long as Nick Saban's there in the West, I would take Florida over all those jobs. I know Georgia's in the East, but the East far more manageable than the West at this moment. So flip a coin, which job's better. But hell, remember the last time Florida had an opening? Scott Frost, Chip Kelly, those seem to be the candidates. And I don't want to say Dan Mullen was their third option. He certainly wasn't their first option. I believe he may have been an option number 2, but that just goes to show. I mean, just because you're Florida, just because your job's open, doesn't mean that everybody and their mother is going to be running to take it. So the expectations are sky high. But where Florida may be in some real trouble here on the recruiting front is the fact that, everybody and their mother knows Todd Grantham's gone. And it sounds like other assistants like John Hevesy also likely out the door, expect major staff turnover. How can you recruit and recruit well when people know they don't know who's going to be there next year? They don't know which coordinators are going to be there. They don't know what staff members are going to be there. So that's something that Dan Mullen has got to have to recruit against. And we already know he's not a great recruiter, even when those questions aren't lingering. And now there's probably going to be lingering concerns about whether he's going to be there or not. And I really think at the end of the day, the worst aspect of the Dan Mullen era to this point in Gainesville is the fact that Florida State and Miami have been down the entire time, and you've not dominated that state on the recruiting trail. You've just, the opportunity was there, and it's still there. It's still there to seize that state and, swoop into South Florida and get those elite players. But hell, whenever there's an elite player in the state of Florida, it seems like they're going to Georgia, seems like they're going to Clemson, seems like they're going to Alabama. When you're the Florida Gators, you should be getting a lot more of those guys, but for some reason you're not. And just imagine if Florida State or Miami somehow turn it around, what's that going to do to recruiting? Is it really going to get better if those programs are suddenly on equal footing with you? Which, again, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but the time is now, and the window's closing to capitalize on it. And hell, if they haven't done it by now, I don't know if it's going to happen. So that's a real issue. And one final thing here I wanted to kind of hit on with the Florida Gators. Hell, I forgot to mention this. They've canceled all their media availability this week as well. So, and that was after Dan Mullen, his presser was about half as long as they usually are, went 15 minutes, usually almost always over 30 minutes here, right around that. So they cut the media time in half. They've canceled all the other media availabilities. The only one he's going to have is his Wednesday teleconference, and any other program at this point, that would not be a huge red flag, but it certainly seems like they don't want any information getting out. They're kind of hunkering down. It's us against the world, and maybe that's what they need. Maybe that's what they need there in Gainesville, but it certainly is interesting. And again, I referenced that last 4 games on the schedule here, and make no mistake, it may seem easy to say this, but I think this is the most challenging, potentially 4-game stretch that Dan Mullen's ever going to have as a head coach in his head coaching career. And remember, he's been in the SEC a long time. But I'll read this schedule to you again. At South Carolina, Samford at home, at Missouri, and Florida State at home. And why is that so challenging? I mean, you're probably rolling your eyes saying, my God, they should win each of those by 20 points at least. And they should. But having such a light schedule, does that seep into the players' minds? I don't know how it doesn't. And when your SEC hopes are dashed, you're wondering if your coach is going to be there. What have you got to play for? You've lost so many big games: LSU, Georgia, Alabama, Kentucky. How easy is it going to be to get up for these other games? And I know fans just expect they just roll the ball out there, and on Saturday they're going to whip South Carolina's ass, they'll whip Missouri's ass, and Florida State, they're terrible. They lost to FCS. We'll whoop their ass. It doesn't work that way. If those teams come ready to play and don't make any mistakes, and you're not prepared and you're making mistakes, we see it time and time again. I mean, hell, Florida's lost to Georgia Southern. Tennessee's lost to Georgia State. We've seen Furman beat South Carolina. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I mean, teams get beat all the time. And this is a dangerous territory that I think Florida is entering in, with everybody and their mother saying, well, hell, these last 4 games, we'll win them easily. But what is there really to play for? You know, Dan Mullen, that is something he addressed here as well on Monday, and, you know, kind of challenging his players, so to speak, on, you know, it doesn't seem like he's appreciating these comments of you know, getting his team up ready, and he talks a big game here, but talking is one thing. We got to see it on the field. And this is, I think, the biggest topic here in Gainesville the next 4 weeks.
You talked with me about on Saturday after the game about mindset.
Yeah.
You've coached a few seasons. I think it's like 13, so a couple games. So you know the coaching world.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any bad blood carrying over from losses? Like, I know there was the bye, but LSU to Georgia. And then how do you kind of stop any negativity that you were talking to me about? Or maybe guys that have like, oh, we got 4 losses in the SEC championship, no big bowl game, like they're just like, the season's done with. Is there anything?
I don't see that with our guys. I see the frustration. Obviously, I don't think any of our guys are happy with where we are and where we're at. I know I'm certainly not. You know, and as a competitor, you know, there's 2 ways to look at it, right? I mean, like you said, however, you just did it like kind of the woe was me factor. Or as a competitor, is I can't wait to get on the field and go compete. And that mindset, you know, that competitive mindset will pull you through to go compete. And then I got to get things cleaned up to make sure our performance is at a higher level. And when you perform at a high level, both in practice and games, that'll build the confidence. Okay. And then when you have the confidence, you have to change your mindset and have the attitude where you expect to go in, where you expect things to happen. There's a very fragile deal within a game where as players talk about it. Hey, I expect the ball to bounce my way. I expect to make the play. I expect to win the game. I expect every break to go our way. Then there's the other one is, hey, I'm looking around for someone else to make the play. Or, oh no, what's going to happen wrong next to us? And that's a fine line. And so you have to, one, change your mindset. But the best way to change your mindset is within your preparation, so that you have the confidence being prepared at that moment to go out there. And then all of a sudden, when the breaks go your way and good things start happening to you, all of a sudden, boy, there's a big change, and that confidence sways the other way. But it's all goes through preparation.
So how does a complacent mindset change to a dominant, I need to go out there and
you got to be a competitor to do that. You know what I mean? You got to be a competitor. And here's the thing is, you don't usually get here. You're not playing football at the level that these guys play football at. You're not playing in the Southeastern Conference. You're not playing at the University of Florida. If you have a complacent mindset, you don't even make it here. You know what I mean?
Well, not complacent, like you said.
That's a competitor, man. You gotta be a competitor, and not everybody are competitors, But most the guys on our team are competitors. I don't even think there is anything to that.
So you get the sense, this is a continuation of his hold the rope comments here after the Georgia game. And again, it's one thing for him to be aware of it. It's another for the players. That's what it boils down to. Where is the focus of this team at this point with so many hopes and dreams dashed? And I think you saw it there in the first half against Georgia. I thought they were pretty locked in at the beginning of the game. The offense clearly was not getting it done, but I think that had more to do with Georgia's defense being so elite. The Gators were manning up with Georgia for the first half until the turnovers, and then once they got punched in the mouth, they just crumbled. And are they really going to just get right back up, or are they going to stay down? And that's what we're going to find out Saturday. But I know if I'm a South Carolina fan, I'm loving this spot. No one's expecting you to do anything. You're getting them at home at night. Should be a rowdy environment as long as the Gamecock Nation is not completely given up on the season. I don't know. This is a tough. I think it's going to be a lot tougher game here for the Florida Gators than many are giving them credit for. And these comments by Dan Mullen, I think they speak to that.